Today we have Brooke Olivia on the show. She is a client of mine, and more importantly, she is a joy and confidence coach, aka Beyonce if Beyonce was a coach. I had the privilege of meeting her a few weeks ago, and wow, her energy is incredibly magnetic. She lights up the entire room, and she does the same thing when she's coaching. And so it is an absolute pleasure to have you on here today to just bring the light, to bring more light to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me. So I'm Brooke Olivia, as Princess said, and I am a joy and confidence coach. My purpose is to help overwhelmed professionals rediscover their joy, even during tough times, and help them to create and transform and get their dream lives.
Can you share a little bit about your background and how you actually ended up in this crazy world of online coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually a former teacher. I was teaching for 20 years, and it's been a journey. I've wanted to be a teacher, even though I thought a bit about it. I wanted to be a teacher for a very long time. And then when I actually got into the teaching space, I loved it. I loved helping the kids and just seeing the joy that would light up in their eyes when they'd learn something. And outside of just, politics and BS and things that happen in the classroom, that was something that kind of started shifting my journey, if you will, because, and then I'll go into more of that, but it's just the whole having to conform to be a certain way. And so I had to teach a certain way, and, I had to put my library a certain way. And I'm like, if I know what works for my kids, I should be able to do what's best for them. And so kind of transitioning, I taught overseas. I came back, and there was a whole situation that happened with that. And then I kind of stumbled into the coaching space by accident. But once I was trained and had my first experience with coaching, it was like the world opened up for me. It's like I knew that this was my purpose in life. So from then, I've been really excited to, do my own thing and just be able to teach the way that I want.
I get that. I totally get that. What was it that you wanted to do that you weren't able to do before when you were teaching?
As far as teaching, just being able to teach in a way that the kids love what we do, being able to teach in a way where the kids learn in a way that works for them. I find that a lot of times people forget that everyone is different, right? We're all these beautiful little snowflakes. We learn differently. Some people are more visual. Some people learn from, just listening. And so just being able to incorporate all of their styles, but then also make learning fun. Kids have this beautiful spirit where they just want to run and scream and do all the things. But what we don't realize is that so much is taken from them, kind of forcing them to just sit and pay attention and recite these words, and it just takes the fun out of it. But a lot of times, the most learning that happens is when we're having fun. It's when we're experiencing things. It's when we're able to kind of just fail our way to learning and success. So that's a huge thing for me.
Something that you mentioned before when we were talking is that, we literally learn by failing. And it's so damaging how in the school system that we all grew up in, we get punished for getting an F. Yeah. When that's literally the way to learn. So I'm curious if that played a key role in your origin story, actually.
A huge role. And I've gotten so passionate about how, the school system is and how kids learn, but it's not even just kids. It's literally the way that failure is perceived on a whole. And you think about it, and I've heard this example so many times where when you see a baby learning to walk, right? He or she takes their first steps and then tumbles down. You don't say, get up, you little idiot. Like, what are you doing? You basically encourage them to keep going. And that's literally how we learn. Like every stage of childhood, you're learning through failure. And then when you get to school, it's like everything that you've ever done as far as learning through failure is flipped upside down. And you take that into the work field. You take that into, society on a whole. It's like, I could go on and on about that. But when it came to failure, that's something huge that even to now, like I'm still working with myself. And I had to change my perfectionist mentality and turn it into a progressionist one, right? If you think about how you learn, the best way to figure out what's going to work is to try and to fail. When you fail, you learn a lesson. It's like, oh, okay, well, this didn't work, so let me try it this way. And that's what you do, and you continue failing and failing until you finally get your grounding, and then you're able to move forward. But for whatever reason, it's taught in a different way. And so that was one of my passions, just as far as having people do things where they're kind of set up to fail. But it's the whole purpose of, okay, you do it, you get comfortable with failure, and then you learn that it is not actually a bad thing.
That's something that adults well into their adulthood still haven't figured out, that failure is not a bad thing. And even though we hear it, and people might listen to podcasts like this and hear it and be like, yeah, they're right. But it's like, it's hard to actually deprogram that belief that failure is a bad thing. So I'm curious, where does someone even start with deprogramming this mindset?
Yeah, unlearning is one of the biggest challenges, but I would say that it starts with what you're putting in, right? A lot of times we don't realize how much we take in from the start of the day. Like, how many people roll over and what do you grab first? The phone, right? Usually your alarm is on your phone. You go to turn the alarm off and 75 notifications start your day. And then it's like, well, while I'm here, let me go ahead and scroll on social media. And then next thing you know, you've heard 6 different things that are going wrong in the news. You've got bad news from 3 of your friends. Like, you're literally starting your day with BS. And so what I encourage people to do is to create a routine. You know, some people are not routine people, but literally, even if you're not a routine person, you're in a routine of whatever it is that you're doing. So if there's something that you can listen to, one of my favorite things to do is listen to affirmations. And so my whole morning, as I'm getting ready, to go to the gym, as I'm washing my dishes, as I'm doing all of those things, I'm listening to affirmations throughout. And it's just helping to reprogram the thoughts that are constantly in my head. When you think about the thoughts that run through your mind, you think about the things that you say, and you hear yourself talk about yourself. You don't even know what was programmed from childhood that you're still saying 10, 20, 40 years later. And so when you can start reprogramming that and start telling yourself a different story, it allows you to start remembering those things. So now I hear myself saying, okay, that was uncomfortable, but hey, only good things happen to me, so let me find the good in this thing, versus what the hell am I going to do because XYZ happened. So it completely changes your thought process, but it's one step at a time.
Yeah, I can see that. I can totally appreciate not vibing with, the way that you've been programmed, the way that all of us have been programmed, all of that. I'm curious if there's certain conversations that inspired you to actually become a coach, because we can all have opinions about things and we can do all of the personal growth and development for ourselves, right? But it's another thing to want to actually help other people with it. So were there conversations that inspired that?
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to just how I grew up, I mean, it was something that I always did. I feel like it was a part of me that wanted to help others. I don't know if part of that was, the church upbringing, like you're supposed to serve others, but it never felt like a grudging thing for me to do. But I know in recent conversations that I've had, with a couple of close friends, I heard this comment, and it stuck with me because it wasn't something that I realized until, kind of hearing that. And it's like, I want to be that person for others that I could have used for me. Like, if someone like me could have told me 20 years ago, hey, it's okay to be who you are. Hey, you don't have to completely dim your light in order to fit in. Like, you can be yourself. You can speak your truth. It's okay to say these things or do these things. If I had that, decades ago, I feel like, geez, imagine where I would be now. And as much as I'm grateful that I know it now and I am able to help others, there was a conversation I was having with someone I met through a friend, and she's very young. I mean, she's just beginning her journey. She's in her early 20s. And, I have these big sister conversations with her, and it's like, hey, if you can learn this now and get this into your head now and build your confidence now, imagine what a powerhouse you'll be in even just 3 years, let alone 3 decades. So being able to be that safe space for people, be that place where they can come to me and share their problems and figure out solutions together. It means more to me than just saying, oh, I was able to help someone. It's like, it's important for me that people know that they can authentically be themselves. They can be who they are, no matter what they were told when they were growing up, no matter the experiences that they've had, no matter who told them they had to do XYZ to get to whatever position. I want people to know that they can be authentically who they are.
Why though?
That's a really good question. I feel like a lot of imposter syndrome, not feeling worthy, not feeling like you're good enough because you're not able to be who you were made to be, who God made you to be. That's the thing that messes a lot of people up. And I know that it's messed me up for sure. And I mean, it's been my whole life. I was raised in the church, very strict, very much, hey, you can't wear these colors. You need to be dressed a certain way. You need to carry yourself a certain way. You can't say certain things. And there was just this whole message of stop trying to stand out. And it was never something that I tried to do, but for whatever reason, the energy, the vibe, people were drawn to me. And it was something that I was initially uncomfortable with because I'm like, well, I need to, as we say, small up myself. It's a Caribbean term, but it's like, you need to kind of sit in that box and stay there and don't stand out. And it made me feel like being authentically me was just not good enough. And that is something that has carried and carried and carried with my whole perfectionist thing where no, an A is not good enough. Where's the plus? It's just all these things that I've heard. And even though I knew it came from loving intention, like, hey, be the best version of yourself, there was never any allowance for me to be okay with where I was. And it wasn't about settling and it wasn't about compromising. It wasn't about being complacent. You can love yourself exactly the way you are on your way to where you want to be. Because if you think about how things go, you're never done. It never ends. There's never a point where you say, I've done everything I've wanted to do. Literally, every time you complete a goal, immediately you're thinking of another one. And we're just not taught to celebrate our wins. And so that's something huge. In my coaching program, it's like, hey, we celebrate even the miniest of wins. And that's just something that I feel is important because people need to know that they are more than enough, exactly who they are, where they are, and as they're on their journey.
That is a bar. So what you said about we've got to love ourselves while we're on the journey. I feel like you said it way better. I think so many people need to hear that, especially right now, especially in this industry that we're in.
Yeah.
Because once you hit a goal, it's literally like, cool, next goal. Like, you don't even, there's no, like, I'm not going to say his name, but there's a client that I've celebrated who won't celebrate himself because no matter what, even though he's breaking personal records, it's still not enough. And it's just like, are you kidding me?
This is conversations I've had with people very similar to him, where it's like, okay, as you're going through the process, and this is why it's so important to be content with where you are, finding the gratitude with where you are, enjoying the little wins as you get them. Because, similar to him, I had a conversation with someone where, the initial goal was, all right, I want to sell 5K. I've only sold 1K, 2K. I want to sell 5K. And then as soon as the 5K was there, instead of celebrating, oh my gosh, I made it to 5K, it was, I need to sell an 8K. You sold an 8K. I need to sell an 8K. It's like, okay, well, can we celebrate as they continue? Because literally, it's never enough. And to know that these huge deals can come in and watching that process of, okay, so when is it going to be enough for you? When are you going to feel like, okay, I've made it? And so that's why I think it's so important because whether it's, sales, whether it's in your job, whatever you're doing, getting promoted, whether it's your fitness goals. That was a huge thing for me. I did not see my growth until there was a picture I took on Valentine's Day this year and a memory came up and I took another picture just posed the same way. And I was like, oh my gosh, I look like a completely different person, but because you're staring at yourself, and this is not just physically, this is every, accomplishment that you've made. You're seeing it day by day. You're watching it in the moment. And so if you don't take appreciation of those things, sometimes it's challenging. And I'm going to give the staircase example because it's so meaningful to me. You look at life like you're walking up this eternal flight of stairs, right? And you're walking, you're walking, you're walking. You get tired, you get sore. You're just like, okay, I'm going to turn around. And you stop halfway and you look up at how far you still have to go and it feels so frustrating. But when you turn around and you look at how far you've come, that's the part we got to start celebrating. And this was huge and something that I heard. It's like, instead of comparing yourself to where you are now versus where you want to be, compare yourself where you are now to where you were. And that's how you see how much growth has happened in the process.
That's a juicy nugget. We always I even forget. I forget. And I do so much coaching. Like a lot of us in this space, we're like addicted to coaching and self-development and all of that. And I think part of that addiction is because we're so obsessed with like going up the flight of stairs rather than looking back. And I think a lot of us would save a ton of time and just mental energy if we just look back more often.
Yeah. And it's that shift in perspective that makes such a difference.
I wanted to take a brief break from this amazing conversation. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. First thing I wanted to talk about is, did you know that 60% of you who listen to the podcast on YouTube are not subscribed? So first of all, thank you so much for listening and watching. And if you could hit the subscribe button, that would mean the world to me. Secondly, if you're an entrepreneur, high-ticket sales rep, or you're just getting into the high-ticket sales space, I want to encourage you to join my free school community. This is where you can get access to my sales training for free. And this is where you can also have the opportunity to ask me questions on the live coaching calls I run every week. If you want to learn how to make sales fun and close more deals so you can make life-changing income this year, the link to join for free is in the description. What would you say was the biggest mindset transformation for you? Was it that or was it something else?
Ooh. There have been a few. I think one of the biggest ones for me was, and I'm still fighting it, like literally to this minute, I'm still fighting it, but it's the do it scared. It's the do the hard things and do them scared. And I've been hearing this message for so long. And a lot of times it's tying into that fear of failure. And I think that's why this is such a huge thing for me, because we're so scared of doing the thing. And I've actually come up with an activity that I do with not just coaching clients, but I've actually, done it with friends as well, where they have this big thing that they've got coming up and they're anxious about it and they're worrying and they're stressed. And it's like, okay, it's easy to say, don't worry about things you can't control, right? It's easy to say it, but to actually allow yourself to find peace with it, we have this activity of worst case scenario, best case scenario, reality, right? So it's a 3-part thing. First thing, you give worst case scenario. All right, tell me absolutely everything that could go wrong and just make it ridiculous. Like go all the way to the left. And they give the scenario. That's like, okay, now just put that one over to the side. Now let's go into best case scenario. What is the best possible outcome of this? Okay, now taking all of the things that you talked about, what sounds like it would be reality? Like if you could actually picture what it would be like. And so they put that together and then it ends up being closer to their reality than any of the worst case stuff. And sometimes it's closer to the best case scenario. So being able to kind of walk through it allows them to experience it, let it go, see that it's not as bad as they think it's going to be. And it tends to help calm them down. That one took me off on a tangent, but it reminded me of that. So do the big scary things. And then there's another thing that the shift your perspective. I was just starting to say that. That's been huge for me because a lot of times when you shift your focus, it helps you to realize how much closer you are to where you want to be. And so I use the glasses as an example. You might need to clean your glasses or you might need to just readjust your focus. But sometimes you're looking at the thing that's right here in front of you that is not as big as you think it is. It's just feeling like it's this thing because it's right here in your face. But if you can look past that and see the grand scheme of things, that's where you're able to say, okay, I'm making the progress that I need to make. I'm doing the things I need to do. I'm not that far from my goal. And that's the thing, Princess. No one is ever as far from their goals as they think they are.
It's so true. Like, it's achieving your goal is actually so much easier than you think. Yeah. Regardless of what your goal is. Doesn't matter if your goal is getting to your first 10K month, if it's getting out of bed and washing your hair, or if it's making $1 million this year. It's way easier than you think.
Yeah.
And I know some people, when they hear that, they roll their eyes. Keep rolling it. But I'm telling you, that's not going to get you any closer to your goal. But believing, even if you think of it as delusional, believing that it's easy as hell will get you there faster than rolling your eyes and turning off this episode.
Yeah. And I mean, can we talk Delulu for a minute? Because that is something that I have adopted. I literally took a one-way first class flight to Delululand, and I stay there. It's like, it doesn't matter what's happening around me. Everything is perfectly aligned. That is the phrase. I got that from Abraham Hicks. I'm always talking about Abraham Hicks. But it's like, well, how's everything going? Everything is perfectly aligned. How's the new job? How's the promotion? Everything is perfectly aligned. Where's the husband that you've been talking about? Everything is perfectly aligned. Like, stop asking me questions. Whatever is laid out for me is on its way. And I think when we stay focused on the goal and knowing that you're taking steps to get there, because that's a whole other conversation, but manifestation is a big thing. And people think manifestation is, woo-woo and this and that, but it's like, okay, you're not just sitting with your legs crossed and breathing and praying and then just expecting things to come. You're putting the energy out there, you're putting the intention out there, and then you're doing the things to bring that along. And so once you have that combination and you don't let anything that's currently happening get in your way, hence the Lululand, hey, I already know this is what I'm going to do. This is how it's going to be. This is the type of year I'm going to have. No matter what reality is showing you in the moment, if you can get that concept of, I know that this is what I'm seeing right now, but I know how this story ends. And when you're at the movies and you're watching a show and you're seeing all the drama that's going on, you already know that they're going to win in the end, right? That's pretty much how it goes. So if you can keep that mindset for you, like, this is your movie, you're the star, and you know how it ends. So it doesn't matter if there's something that's, stressful going on. It's just the idea, hey, I've got to go through this thing, get through this thing, and then everything's going to be okay in the end. So it sounds very, again, woo-woo, dreamy, but it works. And I think that's the part that people tend to not realize because they don't stay consistently in that space.
Mm-hmm. Letting go is the hardest part. Like, it's like, yeah, okay, I believe everything's aligned. But then if you don't actually let go of the anxiety, the fear, the what ifs, all the negative, the worst case scenarios, if you don't let go of that, you're not doing it. I don't want to say you're not doing it right because it's going to trigger all of the perfectionists and we're trying to help them. So I won't say that. I'm just going to say that's the hardest part. And that's the thing.
I want to say something sad because it's the idea of, if anybody has heard this before, it's like you create your own story, right? You write your own story, you create your own reality. As you're creating, if you continue to go back to the same story, you're just going to get more and more of the same story. That's what it sounds like you're saying. Like, okay, you're saying this thing, you want it, but you're still doing this thing and you're caught up in the current situation. You're just going to create more of that. If you're focused on the negative, more negative is going to come, and then you're just going to keep focusing on that. So I feel like having that shift, right? Shifting your perspective, allowing yourself to think instead of, well, what if it doesn't work? What if it does? What if this is the best day ever? What if this was the start of something even better than I thought? And just having that shift, I feel, makes such a huge difference.
And this is why you're so good at sales. This is your unique thing. Like, if I had to look at all my clients and be like, what is the unique thing about them that they bring to their calls that makes them so good? That's what it is for you, is that you're able to have that air of positivity and reframe people who are being negative. And just due to the nature of what you sell, sometimes people come on with all the baggage and they're very negative and they really need to be coached a little through that. And you have the perfect balance of being able to steer them in the right direction without over-coaching, because that's a whole other thing. We can go into that rabbit hole. The most important thing is just understanding the mindset shift. It's everything. So with this kind of coaching, right, where it's really it's trusting the process. It's letting go. A lot of it is it's all internal. How do you recommend people maximize their results with this kind of thing? Like, I'm like cringing at myself asking it this way because I am type A and this is how I think, even though I've done a lot of work, and I'm still like, how do you maximize your results with that? Because I think that's a big factor in helping people understand the value of this kind of work.
So, as a former teacher, I'm going to use ABC so you can easily remember. So, this is definitely a big one for me and has helped. Um, Allow, become, and then consistency. Those are your three words that you want to remember. If you're able to allow things to happen, this is the part of the letting go process. Once you start the process of growth and transformation, you become aware of the things that you're doing. And what we tend to think, and again, this is a huge mind blown type of lesson that I got from you as well. Um, when you see yourself kind of falling back into what feels like old habits, you notice and you get more frustrated. It's like, no, I was just up here. How did I end up back here? But what we don't realize is that, well, you're not here anymore, where you're just unaware of, sitting in your shit, excuse my French, but sitting in your stuff and just wallowing in it, right? If you're aware, oh, here I am telling myself that negative story, that's way better than where you were, right? That's more growth, that's more progress. So if you can allow those things to happen and then you pay attention, okay, I'm realizing what I'm doing. Now let me put into practice the things that I've learned, right? And now you're able to pull yourself out. When you realize, and this was a huge lesson for me, when you realize that growth is not linear, growth is one of those things that kind of happens like this, that's when you're able to see the same thing with the step analogy. You can see how far you came, and that's why it's better to compare yourself to where you were versus where you're going. You're going to get there. You just have to trust the process. So allow things to happen. B is become. This one is the challenging one because we think that just because we say, oh, I'm a top closer, oh, I'm, a worldwide well-known coach, oh, I'm in the best shape of my life, it's supposed to just magically happen. But while you're becoming that person, you look at every day as day one of future you, right? Because current you have to make that decision to get to future you. So day one, what are you going to do that top closer would do? What are you going to do that amazing body would do? Are you going to eat the salad or are you going to go back to Chick-fil-A? And I love me some Chick-fil-A. Are you going to do your reps with your closing, or are you going to scroll on social media when you get a break? It's those decisions, and they're little decisions that you make minute by minute, day by day, that gets you closer to becoming that person. So if you can remember, allow what's going on around you, let yourself become that person. And the biggest one is the consistency, right? Because we start something, and again, this can be sales training, this can be, stuff at work, this could be fitness journey. How many diets have people started? How many workouts have people started? How many things have they ordered online and then didn't even start, that's sitting in their inbox? The consistency is the key. And I didn't notice, and I'm going to use myself as an example, I'm 30 pounds down, right, since I've been in Mexico. And I've been trying to lose 40 pounds for years. And it was always oh, I lost 5 pounds. Let me treat myself. Oh, that was not the best. Let me just do it again tomorrow because I want it to be really, like, you just talk yourself out of it. So being able to have that discipline, because motivation can only take you so far. So having that discipline to keep consistent, you get up whether you want to or not. You do the things whether you want to or not. And just kind of having that conversation with yourself, I know that's the best way to make it happen. So A, B, C, allow, become, and then consistency.
Yeah, that. It's simple. I love a good what are they called? Acronym?
I know what you
English
mean, but I can't remember the word.
acronym. I don't know. Whatever. I love a good list because it makes it really simple to understand. In your opinion, coach to coach, I'm just so curious. How does one know when it's time to actually get a coach? You know, so many people just sit on the sidelines just waiting for, I don't even know what they're waiting for to actually invest in getting some support.
That's a really good question. I think once you've made the decision that you're ready to change your life, that's when you get a coach. Because the best coaches have coaches. The best athletes have coaches. And it's not that you can't do it by yourself, our favorite DIY. It's not that you can't do it on your own. It's how long do you want to take to make it happen? How many more tweaks would you like to, And it's like, you can get there, but how long have you been trying? How long have you been putting it off? How long has it taken for you to say, okay, this is the year? And then you think about how many Januaries have gone by and how many goals have gotten flushed down the toilet. And now it's, so just having that desire to say, okay, I'm ready to make a change. I know that I want something better, different, more fulfilling in my life. If there is that piece that's missing, invest in a coach. You have different opportunities. You have different types of coaches. You find the one that resonates with you. You find the one that you feel is going to help you make those changes, and you have a conversation with them.
Speaking of which by the way, everyone listening, like everything we're talking about, this is all sales. Like it's all relevant to sales. And, congruency, a word that gets thrown around a lot. I feel like a broken record at this point talking about congruency. So I'll leave it at that, but this is all sales, making sure that you're the best person that you can be so that you can actually have powerful conversations and help people make the impact they want, right? And thus do it yourself. I'm curious, what's your mission?
As cliche as it sounds, it is to help others. Like my mission is as many people that I can help to rediscover that inner little girl or inner little boy who was told different things, who learned different things, who told themselves the same story, the same narrative that has them stuck where they are now, whether they are older and just feeling stuck in what they're doing, whether they are younger and just feeling lost on their journey. I want to be able to help them get back to their most authentic selves. I feel like once you're able to confidently show up as yourself and be who you are, that's naturally going to take you on the path that you're supposed to be on. So I would say that that's my mission.
That is a beautiful mission. Let's jump into the rapid fire question segment. So this is where you respond with the first thing that comes to mind. Okay?
Oh boy. Okay.
So what triggers you the most?
Dishonesty.
Oof. Okay. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
I thought about this, and first I used to think I'd want to know people's thoughts, but I think I would really be isolated if I did that. So I'm going to say the ability to teleport anywhere. I just want to be able to travel and just instantly be there.
That's mine. I love that. Yeah, because I'm always late to things in person, at least. So yeah, cool. What's your biggest fear?
Ooh, besides the spiders that are here in Mexico,
Yeah.
honestly, not living up to my fullest potential. Like knowing that I'm supposed to be, like I'm destined to do great things and not fulfilling that.
So guess what? The highest achievers that I've had on the podcast, they say that. So,
I don't know if that's that just tells me that what I'm doing, this is why I need to be doing it.
Heck yeah. Is there anything exciting that you're working on?
So I'm really excited because I'm working on a few things, but the one I do want to share is the community that I'm building. I'm very excited about that just because it's going to be, I've just got some things in store, but it is going to be a safe space. And I just look forward to sharing that with everyone.
What is the juiciest piece of this safe haven that you're creating? I'm just curious.
Juicy. Well, I don't know if it would be considered juicy, but I feel like just having a place where you can absolutely just let your hair down and be yourself. I think being able to have that space where there's no judgment and you're able to speak freely about whatever you want, that I think is one of the things that's missing.
I love that. That's awesome. What's your most controversial opinion?
I think that relationships should be what you make them. And it may not sound controversial, but there have been some interesting conversations that I've had about people in relationships. And I feel like there are a lot of different ways that things can go. But I feel like whatever works for you and your partner, that should be the thing that you do, not what everybody else tells you what everybody else tells you it should be.
Okay, so does this mean we're having another episode on like non-monogamy coming up soon or what?
Quite possibly. Quite possibly.
Ooh, juicy. Okay, so cool. Oh man, who inspires you the most?
First answer that came to my mind was Beyonce, but no. I find that a lot of different people inspire me, and it's not, ironically, it's not the famous people. It's the people that I see putting in so much work and so much effort and challenging themselves on a daily basis. I would venture to say that you're one of the people that inspire me because I see how much work you put in and I see how much you care about people. So yeah, you're definitely one of the people on my list. As far as just general people I know, I would venture to say that I inspire myself at this point because of the amount of different things that I have done, even just picking up and moving to Mexico on my own. I mean, I do have my dogs, but they're not security. So definitely just being out here and, paving a new road. I find that the amount of, slack, I don't think that's the right word, but the amount of stuff that I get from my family and people who don't understand why I'm putting myself in a position where I'm challenged at times, just being able to say, F what these people say, I'm going to do what I know I'm supposed to do. And this is the journey I'm supposed to be taking. And no matter what comes up, no matter how hard it gets, I'm going to push forward and make it happen. So I would venture to say that, I definitely inspire myself. I don't know if that's maybe that should have been my controversial opinion.
I am so flattered that I'm on that list. And I also don't think that it's controversial that you are one of your biggest inspirations because you have overcome a lot and you have transformed like a freaking caterpillar into a butterfly, So it's like, I think it's cool to be able to look up to yourself and be that person. I think it reminds me of one of the things that was a big goal for me is I wanted to be someone that I can look up to because I always looked up to the Layla Hormozis of the world. So it's really a beautiful thing when you can be that person for yourself.
Thank you.
If anybody wants to get some coaching from someone who will literally bring joy like the moment you step into the virtual room with her or the real one if you do an in-person thing, like I highly recommend working with her because believe it or not, even though she's a client of mine, she has coached me quite a bit as well and helped me learn so much over the last few months. So yeah, highly recommend working with her. Thanks again for coming on, Olivia. You are the first woman on this podcast and I'm so happy about that.
Thank you.
Can you share what it looks like to actually work with you? Somebody wants to overcome the BS and experience joy, like real freaking joy and freedom.
Yes, absolutely. I help high achievers break free from emotional blocks and step into their most confident selves. The main ways to work with me are through one-on-one coaching, which is fine-tuning the transformation, or you can work within my inner circle community. So we're focusing on healing the inner child. We are focusing on rediscovering sensuality. And we want to make sure that you learn how to master your joy, even through the toughest of times. And there are a lot of tough times going on right now. So it's going beyond just regular personal development. This is like a complete rebirth into the most powerful version of yourself.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it really is like a rebirth. This process is a lot. It's a lot. I feel like I'm going through my own rebirth right now in real time. Yeah. And it's all very worth it.
Transformation, as sexy as it is at the end, it's not so sexy going through it. And if you think about And you mentioned the caterpillar to the butterfly. That's one of like my biggest themes. When you think about what a caterpillar has to go through to become a butterfly, how weak it gets, how, everything just seems like a hot mess. And then it comes out and it's still getting used to its own new version of itself. Keep in mind that as you're going through transformation, you're going to have rough times. It's going to get harder before it gets better. And I say better instead of easier because it doesn't ever get easier. You just get better at managing things. You're able to be stronger. So as you're going through your transformation, just know if something tough is happening, find the gratitude in it. It definitely sounds like a challenge, but if you can find gratitude in the tough times, it definitely helps to move you just one step closer in the right direction.
Very well said. Much better than I could have said it. It is messy and ugly, and still embrace it because, it'll lead to everything you want in life, right? Those of you who got to the end, congratulations. And if you got anything out of this, as always, drop your golden nuggets in the comment section. I love reading your nuggets. I love seeing what you guys learn and get from these episodes. And I will have Olvia's info in the description box. So if you want to contact her, you can jump in there and experience all of the joy. And as always, don't forget to hold yourself to a higher degree so you can be the most effective leader you can be. Till next time. Bye, guys.